In the vastness of space, where ancient empires span galaxies and technology can reshape reality itself, one moment of human compassion is about to rewrite the fundamental laws of biology, politics, and power. When Marcus Chun, a battle-scarred human mercenary, makes a split-second decision to save a dying alien princess with his own blood, he unknowingly triggers a cascade of events that will shake the foundations of a thousand-year-old galactic civilization. What happens when human blood, evolved from a world of constant struggle and adaptation, meets the refined genetics of a galaxy's most powerful ruling family? What secrets lie dormant in our DNA that even we don't understand? And why are the galaxy's most feared scientists suddenly terrified of what humanity might become? This is not just a story of heroism. This is the story of how one act of humanity's stubborn refusal to let someone die becomes the catalyst for the most dangerous evolution the universe has ever witnessed. Because sometimes saving one life can doom or elevate an entire species. The galaxy is about to learn why Earth's children are different, why we survived when others fell, and why our blood carries secrets that were never meant to be shared. Prepare yourself for a journey where compassion becomes power, where human instinct rewrites alien destiny, and where the greatest weapon in the universe isn't technology, it's the indomitable human spirit that refuses to surrender, even when it should. Marcus Chun pressed himself against the cold metal wall of the space station's maintenance corridor, his breathing shallow and controlled. The sounds of battle echoed through the ventilation systems above, plasma fire, screaming metal, and the distinctive whine of energy shields failing. His scarred hands gripped his assault rifle tighter as he counted the footsteps of the enemy patrol moving past his hiding spot. The Nexus Station had been humanity's first real foothold in this sector of the galaxy, a trading post where humans could prove they belonged among the established alien civilizations. Now it was becoming a tomb. The Kithara Empire's attack had come without warning, their sleek warships dropping out of hyperspace like silver daggers aimed at humanity's heart. Marcus had been hired as security for a human trade delegation. It was supposed to be easy money, stand around looking intimidating while diplomats argued over shipping routes and tariff agreements. Instead, he found himself trapped in the middle of an interstellar incident that could spark the first war between humanity and one of the galaxy's major powers. The footsteps faded, and Marcus allowed himself a moment to think. His earpiece crackled with scattered reports from other human security teams scattered throughout the station. The situation was bad. The Kithara forces had taken the main docking bays and were systematically hunting down humans throughout the facility. Their weapons were more advanced, their armor better, and they knew the station's layout better than the humans who had been living there for only 6 months. But Marcus had survived worse. He had fought in the border conflicts back in human space, where desperate colonies had warred over barely habitable worlds. He had learned to think like prey and hunt like a predator. The aliens might have better technology, but they didn't understand how humans fought when their backs were against the wall. Moving silently through the maintenance tunnels, Marcus made his way toward the evacuation point, where human civilians were supposed to gather. His motion tracker showed scattered life signs throughout the station, some moving in organized patterns that suggested Kithara search teams, others fleeing in panic. But one signal caught his attention. It was in a section of the station that should have been empty, moving erratically, stopping, and starting as if the person was injured. Marcus knew he should ignore it. His job was to protect the human delegation, not chase after random life signs that could easily be a trap. But something about the signal's pattern bothered him. It wasn't moving like someone trying to hide or escape. It was moving like someone who was dying. Against his better judgment, Marcus changed course. The signal was coming from the diplomatic sector, where various alien species maintained small embassies and cultural centers. The corridor here was wider, designed to accommodate the various sizes and shapes of the galaxy's intelligent species. Elegant tapestries hung from the walls, and soft lighting created an atmosphere of peaceful cooperation that seemed obscene given the violence raging elsewhere on the station. The blood trail started near the Vorthak embassy. Purple droplets, still wet, leading deeper into the diplomatic quarter. Marcus followed them, his weapon ready, every sense alert for danger. The trail led to a small alcove near the Zelani Cultural Center, where someone had tried to hide behind a decorative fountain. She was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen, even in a galaxy full of strange beings. Her skin had a translucent quality, like living crystal, and it seemed to shift between pale blue and silver as she breathed. Her hair was white as starlight, flowing like liquid mercury down her shoulders. She wore robes that might have been ceremonial, now torn and stained with that distinctive purple blood. But it was her eyes that made Marcus freeze. They were human-like in shape, but filled with swirling galaxies of color, deep violet shot through with silver stars. As she looked up at him, those eyes held intelligence, fear, and something else. Recognition, perhaps, or maybe just the desperation of someone who knew she was dying. She spoke, and somehow Marcus understood her despite never hearing her language before. The words seemed to bypass his ears and speak directly to his mind. Please, I am Zara THYSS of the Ethereal Dominion. My ship attacked by Kithra forces. They think I am human ally. Marcus knelt beside her, his medical training kicking in automatically. The wound was in her side, a clean puncture that had missed vital organs but was bleeding heavily. Her physiology was clearly different from human, but the basics seemed similar enough. She was going into shock, her strange blood pressure dropping as her body struggled to maintain circulation. Easy, Marcus said, pressing his hands against the wound to slow the bleeding. I'm going to help you. Her eyes focused on him with effort. You, human, why help enemy of your kind? The question hit him harder than it should have. The Ethereal Dominion wasn't exactly an enemy of humanity, but they weren't allies either. They were one of the old powers, ancient beyond human comprehension, who viewed younger species with a mixture of curiosity and condescension. Most humans found them arrogant and impossible to deal with. But looking at her now, bleeding and afraid, Marcus only saw someone who needed help. Because you're hurt, he said simply, and I don't let people die if I can help it. She smiled, and it transformed her face completely. For a moment, the alien features became something almost familiar, beautiful in a way that transcended species. Your kind strange, so young, yet so passionate about life. Marcus worked quickly, using his emergency medical supplies to clean and seal the wound. But even with human technology helping, he could see she was fading. Her blood loss was severe, and whatever physiological processes kept her alive were shutting down. His medical scanner beeped urgently. Her life signs were failing. I need to get you to a medical facility, Marcus said, but even as he spoke, he knew it was impossible. The station's medical bay was in Kithra hands, and he didn't know enough about ethereal physiology to help her properly. No time, she whispered. I can feel it, the darkness coming. But strange, I sense something in you. Your life force, it burns so bright, like a star refusing to die. Marcus felt something shift in the air around them, a pressure that made his ears pop. The princess's skin began to glow faintly, and he realized she was doing something with what humans called space magic, the energy manipulation abilities that many alien species possessed, but humans seemingly lacked. What are you doing? He asked. Scanning. Your essence, she replied, her voice growing stronger despite her physical weakness. Remarkable. Your species, your blood carries something I have never encountered. A genetic pattern that speaks of survival against impossible odds. Marcus didn't understand what she meant, but he could see her condition worsening. Her skin was losing its glow, becoming translucent in a way that suggested impending death. Without thinking, he made a decision that would change everything. Take my blood, he said suddenly. Her eyes widened. What? A transfusion. Maybe human blood can help stabilize you until we can get proper medical treatment. He was already reaching for his emergency medical kit, pulling out the portable transfusion equipment that every human soldier carried. I don't know if it'll work with your physiology, but it's better than doing nothing. You would share your life essence with me? A stranger? An alien? Her voice carried amazement. And something else, respect, perhaps. I've had worse ideas, Marcus said, setting up the transfusion line. Besides, humans are supposed to be universal donors, right? Maybe that works across species, too. As the needle slid into his arm, and His blood began to flow through the transparent tube toward the alien princess. Marcus felt a strange sensation. It was as if something was watching him, evaluating him, measuring the weight of his decision. The princess's eyes were locked on his face, studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Your name," she said softly. "I must know the name of the one who gives such a gift." "Marcus Chun, Sergeant, Human Colonial Security." "Marcus Chun," she repeated, as if testing how the syllables fell in her mouth. "I am Princess Zarathustra, heir to the ethereal throne, guardian of the crystal sanctuaries, keeper of the ancient wisdom." She paused, then added with a slight smile, "I believe you humans would say, pleased to meet you." The transfusion continued, and Marcus watched his blood flow into her alien circulatory system. Almost immediately, her color began to improve. The translucent quality of her skin became more solid, more vital. Her breathing steadied, and the dangerous weakness in her voice began to fade. But something else was happening too. Marcus felt a strange tingling where the four connected to his arm, as if electricity was flowing backward through the line. The sensation spread up his arm and through his chest, not painful, but definitely not normal. He was about to mention it when alarms began blaring throughout the station. "Attention all personnel," came a cold voice over the communication system, speaking in heavily accented standard. "This is Commander Thexvar of the Kithra Imperial Navy. This station is now under Imperial authority. All humans will report to designated holding areas for processing. Resistance will be met with terminal force." Marcus cursed under his breath. The Kithra had won. The station was theirs, and any humans who didn't surrender would be hunted down and killed. He needed to get the princess somewhere safe, and then figure out how to reach the evacuation ships that were hopefully still operational. "Can you move?" he asked as he carefully removed the transfusion line. He had given her almost a full unit of blood, not dangerous for him, but enough to hopefully stabilize her system. Zarathustra tested her limbs, moving with growing confidence. Yes, I believe so. Your blood, it is remarkable. I can feel it working within me, not just replacing what was lost, but enhancing what remains." She looked at him with those swirling eyes. "What exactly are you humans?" Before Marcus could answer, footsteps echoed down the corridor. Heavy, measured, accompanied by the distinctive whine of Kithra power armor. A search patrol was heading their way, and there was nowhere to run. Marcus helped the princess to her feet, noting that she moved with surprising grace for someone who had been near death minutes earlier. "We need to hide. Can you do anything about that glowing skin? You're kind of conspicuous." She nodded and seemed to concentrate. Her natural luminescence dimmed until she appeared almost normal, though her alien features would still mark her as non-human to any observer. "It will not fool a close inspection, but perhaps it'll have to do." Marcus looked around the alcove, searching for options. The fountain they had been hiding behind was decorative, not functional, and too small to conceal them both. The corridor offered no real cover, and the embassy doors were all sealed. The footsteps were getting closer. Marcus could hear voices now, Kithra soldiers communicating in their harsh, clicking language. They were being thorough, checking every possible hiding spot as they advanced through the diplomatic corridor. "This way," Zarathustra whispered, pointing toward what appeared to be a solid wall. But as Marcus looked closer, he could see faint lines in the metal, a hidden door probably leading to the maintenance areas behind the embassies. "How did your blood," she said simply. "It carries the memories of this place somehow. I can sense things now that were hidden before." She touched the wall, and the hidden door slid open silently, revealing a narrow service corridor beyond. They slipped inside, just as the Kithra patrol reached their hiding spot. Marcus held his breath as the soldiers examined the area, their scanner beams sweeping the alcove where his blood still stained the floor. He expected shouts of discovery, the sound of pursuit, but after a few tense minutes, the patrol moved on. As they made their way through the hidden passages behind the diplomatic corridor, Marcus tried to process what had happened. The princess claimed his blood was somehow giving her access to information she shouldn't have. That didn't make sense by any biology he understood, but then, again, most alien abilities didn't make sense to human science. "Where are we going?" he whispered as they climbed through a maintenance shaft. "The communication center," she replied. If I can reach my ship, my people will come for me, and they will be very interested in meeting the human who saved my life. Marcus wasn't sure that was good news. The ethereal dominion was powerful, ancient, and unpredictable. Getting their attention could be as dangerous as avoiding it. But right now, they needed allies, and a rescued princess seemed like a good start. As they climbed, HFY spoke quietly. Tell me about your species, Marcus-chun. In all my years studying the younger races, I have never encountered anything like what flows in your veins. We're from Earth, Marcus said, trying to keep his explanation simple. Third planet from our sun, mostly water, kind of violent history. We've only been in space for about 200 years, so we're still pretty new to all this. 200 years, she mused. A blink of an eye. Yet your blood carries patterns that speak of millions of years of adaptation, of survival against extinction-level threats. What happened on your world? Marcus thought about it as they reached another maintenance hatch. Pretty much everything, I guess. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, plagues, wars. Earth tried to kill us about once every 1,000 years, and we just kept adapting. Fascinating. Most species evolve on worlds that support life easily. They develop in harmony with their environment, becoming specialized for specific ecological niches. But she paused, studying him in the dim light of the maintenance shaft. You evolved on a world that was actively hostile to life. Every generation had to be stronger, smarter, more adaptable than the last or die. That's a cheerful way to look at it, Marcus said dryly, opening the hatch to peer into the corridor beyond. It explains much, she continued. Why you take such risks to help strangers. Why you refuse to surrender, even in hopeless situations. Why your blood carries such potential. Potential for what? Before she could answer, Marcus heard something that made his blood run cold. Human voices crying out in pain. Somewhere nearby, the Kithra were interrogating prisoners, and they weren't being gentle about it. The diplomatic corridor where they emerged was different from the one they had left. This section housed the embassies of the more militaristic species, the Kithra, the hegemony, the war clans. The architecture was harsher, more angular, designed to project power rather than cooperation. The sounds were coming from the Kithra embassy itself. Through a partially open doorway, Marcus could see into a large chamber where several humans were restrained in energy fields. Kithra soldiers stood over them, their insectoid features hidden behind featureless helmets, demanding information about human military capabilities. Marcus recognized one of the prisoners, Sarah Martinez, the lead trade negotiator. She was a diplomat, not a soldier, but the Kithra were treating her like a spy. Blood ran from a cut on her forehead, and her formal business attire was torn and stained. We need to keep moving, HFY whispered urgently. There are too many of them. We cannot help your people this way. Marcus knew she was right. A frontal assault would be suicide, and getting himself captured wouldn't help anyone. But as he watched Sarah struggle against her restraints, something inside him rebelled against the logical choice. These weren't just random humans. They were his responsibility. He had been hired to protect them, and he had failed. I can't just leave them, he said quietly. The princess studied his face for a long moment. Your species truly is remarkable. Even now, facing impossible odds, you think first of others. She was quiet for another moment, then seemed to make a decision. Very well. I have an idea, but it will require trust. What kind of trust? The kind where you let me use your blood as a weapon. Before Marcus could ask what she meant, alarms began sounding again. But these were different from the earlier warnings, deeper, more urgent. The lights in the corridor shifted from white to red, and blast doors began sliding shut throughout the section. A new voice came over the communication system, speaking in the musical language of the ethereal dominion. Princess HFY listened with growing amazement, then turned to Marcus with an expression of wonder and concern. What is it? He asked. My people have arrived, she said. But they're not here to rescue me. She paused, her alien features troubled. They're here to study what has happened to me. Apparently, when your blood mixed with mine, it created something that has never been seen before in galactic history. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. What kind of something? The kind that could change the balance of power in the galaxy, she replied. And Everyone is going to want to control it. As if to emphasize her words, the station shuddered as massive ships dropped out of hyperspace. Through the transparent aluminum windows, Marcus could see the elegant, crystalline forms of ethereal Dominion vessels taking position around Nexus Station. They were beautiful and terrible, their surfaces reflecting starlight like captured dreams. But they weren't alone. The massive, wedge-shaped hulls of Kythera dreadnoughts were moving to intercept them, and in the distance, Marcus could see the familiar angular silhouettes of human warships jumping into the system. What had started as a simple attack on a trading post was escalating into something much larger. And somehow, Marcus realized with growing dread, it was all connected to the moment when he had chosen to save a dying alien princess with his own blood. The galaxy was about to change, and he was standing at the center of the storm. The station's lights flickered as competing gravitation fields from the gathering fleet began to interfere with its systems. Marcus could feel the deck plates vibrating under his feet as massive ships maneuvered outside, their weapons charging in preparation for what might become the first three-way battle in this sector's history. "We need to move now," Princess Zertifes said, her voice carrying new urgency. "Before my people decide you are too dangerous to live." "Your own people want to kill me?" Marcus asked, though he was already moving toward the maintenance shaft that would take them closer to the communication center. "Not kill," she corrected as they climbed. "Study, dissect, learn how human biology could accomplish what our scientists thought impossible." Her voice carried a bitter note. "The ethereal Dominion has spent millions of years perfecting our understanding of life force manipulation. We consider ourselves the galaxy's masters of biological enhancement. Yet one unit of crude human blood has created changes in my cellular structure that our greatest minds cannot explain." As they reached the next level, Marcus could hear more human voices, but these weren't cries of pain. They were tactical communications, clipped and professional. Someone was organizing resistance. "Marcus, this is Colonel Harrison," came a familiar voice over his earpiece. "Are you still operational?" Marcus activated his comm unit carefully, keeping his voice low. "Operational and mobile, Colonel. I'm in the diplomatic sector with a civilian." "Copy that. We've got human reinforcements jumping in, but the situation is complicated. The ethereals want something on the station, and they're not talking. We need intelligence on what's really happening here." Marcus glanced at the princess, who was listening to the conversation with obvious understanding. Her ability to comprehend human languages seemed to have expanded dramatically since the transfusion. "I might have some information on that," Marcus said carefully. "But we need extraction first. Can you reach the diplomatic quarter?" "Negative. Kythera forces have it locked down tight, and they're using some kind of new shielding technology. Our sensors can't penetrate it, and direct assault would result in massive civilian casualties." The colonel paused. "Whatever you found, Sergeant, it better be worth the cost. We've got 3 major powers squaring off over one space station." The communication cut out as another wave of interference swept through the station's systems. Marcus looked at Zartichwesis, who had gone very still, her alien features troubled. "What is it?" he asked. "I can hear them," she whispered. "My people. They are arguing. The Council of Minds is divided on how to proceed." She closed her eyes, and Marcus noticed that the patterns of color in her skin had begun to shift more rapidly. "Some want to claim me immediately to study what has happened. Others believe the contamination is too dangerous and should be contained." "Contamination?" Marcus felt a cold dread settling in his stomach. "That is what they call it. The mixing of human and ethereal biology." She opened her eyes, and Marcus saw something there that looked almost like fear. "They do not understand how it is possible. Our species are not genetically compatible. Transfusions between different alien races typically result in immediate rejection and death. Yet your blood is not only sustaining me, it is enhancing my natural abilities in ways that should not exist." To demonstrate her point, she held out her hand and concentrated. The air around her fingers began to shimmer, and Marcus watched in fascination as she created what looked like a holographic display showing the station's internal structure. Every corridor, every room, every life sign was visible in perfect detail. This level of perception should require years of training and meditation, she explained. I'm accessing abilities that normally take decades to develop, and doing so instinctively. The hologram shifted, zooming in on various sections. Your people are here, here, and here, she said, pointing to clusters of human life signs. The largest group is in the cargo bay. Your Colonel Harrison has established a defensive position there. Marcus studied the display, noting the positions of Kithra forces and the optimal routes between them. But something else caught his attention. What's that? He asked, pointing to a section of the station that showed unusual energy readings. Zarathustra frowned, manipulating the display to get a better view. I do not know. It appears to be some kind of laboratory, but the energy signature is familiar somehow. Her eyes widened. Marcus, I believe the Kithra have been conducting experiments on captured humans. The implication hit him like a physical blow. The attack on Nexus Station hadn't been random retaliation for human expansion into Kithra space. It had been planned, calculated, designed to capture human subjects for study. Why, he asked. What could they want with human biology? The same thing my people want now, she replied grimly. To understand what makes you different. What gives you the ability to survive where others cannot? What makes your blood capable of impossible things? Before Marcus could respond, the station shuddered again, more violently this time. Emergency lighting kicked in as the main power grid fluctuated, and the distant sound of weapons fire echoed through the corridors. The battle has begun, Zarathustra said unnecessarily. Through the windows, Marcus could see the space around Nexus Station lighting up with energy beams and missile trails. The human fleet was smaller than either of the alien forces, but their ships moved with aggressive precision, darting between the larger vessels like wolves attacking a herd. My people fight differently than yours, Marcus observed, watching a human destroyer execute an impossible turn to avoid a Kithra plasma barrage. Yes, the princess agreed. Most space combat in the galaxy is formal, ritualistic. Ships position themselves at optimal range and exchange fire according to established protocols. But humans... She watched as the same destroyer launched missiles from point-blank range at an ethereal cruiser. You fight like predators. Unpredictable. Savage. Is that a compliment or an insult? Both, she admitted. And it terrifies the established powers more than you realize. A new sound cut through the battle noise, footsteps in the corridor below them. Marcus peered through a maintenance grate and saw something that made his blood run cold. Kithra soldiers were escorting a group of humans toward the laboratory section HFY had identified. But these weren't the diplomats from the embassy. They were civilians, traders, technicians, people who had come to Nexus Station for nothing more than honest work. They are taking them to the experimental facility, the princess confirmed, reading something in his expression. Marcus, what they plan to do, it will not be pleasant. Marcus was already moving, climbing down toward the corridor access. Then we stopped them. Wait, Zarathustra called after him. There are too many. We can't leave them. Marcus cut her off. I don't care about odds or tactics or politics. Those are innocent people, and I'm not going to let aliens use them as lab rats. The princess caught up with him as he reached the access panel. Your species really is insane, she said, but there was something like admiration in her voice. Very well, but if we're going to attempt this madness, we should do it properly. She placed her hand on Marcus's arm, and he felt that strange tingling sensation again. But this time it was stronger, more intense, as if electricity was flowing through his entire nervous system. What are you doing? Sharing, she replied. Your blood has given me enhanced abilities. Perhaps I can return the favor. Her skin began to glow more brightly, and the patterns of color shifted into complex geometric shapes. Hold still. The sensation spread through Marcus's body like fire. Every nerve ending came alive with new sensitivity. His hearing sharpened until he could distinguish individual conversations through the station's walls. His vision expanded, showing him details in the darkness that should have been invisible. Most startling of all, he began to sense things that weren't visible. The electromagnetic signatures of the Kithra soldiers below, the life force patterns of the human prisoners, even the massive energy flows of the ships battling outside. Incredible, Zarathustra breathed. Your nervous system is adapting to the enhancement faster than should be possible. It is as if your biology was designed for this kind of augmentation. Marcus flexed his hands, marveling at the new sensations flowing through him. He could feel the station's power grid like a living thing, could sense the stress patterns in the metal around them, could even detect the emotional states of the beings nearby. The human prisoners were terrified, but determined. The Kithra soldiers were confident, but wary. And throughout the station, other minds were active. Alien thoughts that touched the edge of his consciousness like whispers in a foreign language. "This isn't permanent, is it?" he asked, though part of him hoped it might be. "I do not know," she admitted. "Nothing like this has ever been attempted. Your blood in my system, my energy in yours. We are in completely uncharted territory." She studied his face with those swirling eyes. "How do you feel?" "Like I could take on the entire Kithra Empire," Marcus said honestly. The enhancement wasn't just physical. It was affecting his confidence, his perception of what was possible. Every tactical problem seemed to have an obvious solution. Every obstacle appeared surmountable. "Good," Zarathustra smiled, and for the first time it reached her alien eyes. "Because that may be exactly what we need to do." They moved through the maintenance corridors with new purpose, guided by Marcus's enhanced senses and the princess's expanding abilities. The route to the laboratory became clear in his mind, as if he could see through the station's walls. He could feel the human prisoners moving through the corridors below, could sense their fear and determination. But he could also feel something else. The Kithara weren't just collecting human subjects. They were preparing for something larger. In the laboratory, alien scientists were activating equipment that hummed with dangerous energy. Whatever they planned to do to the captured humans, it was going to happen soon. "There," Zarathustra said as they reached an access point directly above the laboratory. "But, Marcus, you should know, there are at least 20 Kithra soldiers down there, plus scientific personnel, even with our enhanced abilities." "I know," Marcus said, checking his weapons. "But look at what they're setting up." Through the enhanced perception she had given him, Marcus could see into the laboratory below. The Kithra had arranged examination tables in precise rows, each equipped with restraining fields and what looked like biological sampling equipment. But that wasn't the worst part. Along one wall, they had set up a series of containment units, sealed chambers designed to hold living subjects for extended periods. They're not planning to just study these people, Marcus realized with growing horror. They're planning to keep them. Long-term experimentation. The Kithara are methodical, Zarathustra confirmed grimly. They will take months, perhaps years, to fully analyze human biology. And they will keep the subjects alive throughout the process to observe how various modifications affect living tissue. The implications were clear. The captured humans wouldn't die quickly. They would be kept alive, conscious, and aware while alien scientists slowly dissected their biology piece by piece. It was a fate worse than death, and Marcus felt his enhanced anger building into something that bordered on rage. "Not happening," he said flatly. The access panel below them led directly into the laboratory's main chamber. Marcus could see the guards' positions, could sense their alert patterns, could even detect the subtle electromagnetic signatures of their weapons. With his enhanced perception, the tactical situation became as clear as a three-dimensional map in his mind. "I can create a distraction," Zarathustra offered. "My people's ships are scanning the station. If I send them a signal, they will focus their attention on this section. Won't that put you in danger from your own people?" "Yes," she said simply. "But these humans do not deserve what the Kithra planned for them." And she paused, studying him. "I find that your species' stubborn morality is becoming contagious." Marcus felt something shift between them in that moment. They weren't just allies of convenience anymore. The shared blood, the enhanced abilities, the impossible situation, it was creating a bond that transcended species boundaries. "On my mark," he said, positioning himself over the access panel. "Send your signal, and then get clear. I'll handle the guards." "Marcus," she said quietly, "what we are about to do will have consequences far beyond this station. My people will know that I have been changed by contact with humanity. The Kithara will see humans as an even greater threat. And your own people," she trailed off, "will have to deal with whatever comes next," Marcus finished. "Some things are more important than politics." She smiled at that, and for a moment her alien features looked almost human. Yes, I am beginning to understand why the galaxy fears your species. Marcus dropped through the access panel into the laboratory below, landing silently behind a bank of equipment. His enhanced senses immediately painted a complete picture of the room. 23 Kithera soldiers for scientists, 12 human prisoners already restrained on examination tables, and a dozen more being prepared for processing. The enhancement had changed more than his perceptions. His reaction time was faster, his muscle coordination more precise, his tactical thinking sharper than it had ever been. As the first Kithera guard turned toward his position, Marcus was already moving. The battle that followed was unlike anything in his previous experience. Every movement flowed perfectly into the next. Every shot found its mark. Every tactical decision proved optimal. The Kithera soldiers were skilled and well-equipped, but they weren't prepared for a human who could see their positions through solid walls and anticipate their moves before they made them. Above him, Marcus felt HFY activating her signal to the ethereal ships. Immediately, the laboratory's systems began malfunctioning as alien scanning beams focused on their section of the station. Emergency lighting kicked in, and several of the examination tables powered down, freeing the human prisoners. "Everyone out," Marcus shouted, providing covering fire as the freed humans scrambled for the exit. "Follow the emergency lighting to the main corridor." But as the last prisoner escaped, Marcus realized the situation had become more complicated. The laboratory contained more than just examination equipment. There were computers full of research data, biological samples from previous experiments, and what looked like prototype weapons based on alien-human hybrid technology. The Kithera had been studying humans for longer than anyone realized. This wasn't a new project sparked by humanity's expansion into their space. This was an ongoing research program that had been running for months, possibly years. "Marcus," HFY called from above. "My people's ships are moving to dock with the station. We have perhaps minutes before they arrive." Marcus looked around the laboratory, taking in the full scope of what the Kithera had been doing. If this information fell into the wrong hands, it could be used to create weapons specifically designed to target human biology. Or worse, it could be used to create enhanced humans under alien control. Without hesitation, he began setting charges on the laboratory's main computers. The enhanced abilities flowing through him made the work faster and more precise than it should have been possible. Every system, every data storage unit, every sample container, everything had to be destroyed. As the charges armed, Marcus felt a strange sensation. The enhancement that HFY had given him was beginning to fade, like a tide slowly receding. His expanded perceptions were contracting back to normal human ranges, his supernatural coordination returning to merely exceptional. But something else was happening too. The alien technology in the laboratory was reacting to his presence, to the hybrid energy signature created by his enhanced biology. Screens were lighting up with data streams that hadn't been active before, and several of the prototype devices were beginning to resonate with strange harmonics. "Fascinating," came a new voice from the laboratory entrance. Marcus spun around to find himself facing a tall, elegant figure in the flowing robes of the ethereal dominion. But this wasn't Princess HFY. This alien was older, more powerful, with skin that seemed to contain entire galaxies of swirling light. "Lord Protector Silastan," HFY said from the access panel above, her voice carrying both respect and wariness. "I greet you in the name of the eternal harmony." "Princess," the newcomer replied, his voice carrying harmonics that made Marcus's bones vibrate. "You have been changed. Most interesting." Those ancient eyes fixed on Marcus. "And you must be the human whose blood has created such unprecedented complications." Marcus kept his weapon trained on the alien lord, though he suspected it would be useless against such a powerful being. "Depends on what kind of complications you're talking about. The kind that could reshape the galaxy," Lord Silastan replied. "Tell me, human, do you understand what you have done? The biological impossibility you have achieved through simple compassion." "I helped someone who was hurt," Marcus said. "Everything else is your problem." The ancient alien studied him for a long moment, then began to laugh, a sound like crystal chimes in a gentle wind. "Remarkable. Even now, facing powers beyond your comprehension, You reduce complex galactic politics to simple moral choices. He turned to address HFY. Child, I begin to understand why you chose to accept this contamination. It is not contamination, the princess said firmly. It is evolution. Lord Silastan's expression grew serious. Perhaps, but evolution can be as dangerous as it is beneficial. He gestured to the laboratory around them. The Kithra certainly think so. They have been studying your species for some time, trying to understand what makes humans so adaptable. And what have they learned? Marcus asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. That you should not exist, the alien lord replied bluntly. By all known laws of biology and evolution, a species with your characteristics should have been extinct millions of years ago. You are too aggressive to build stable civilizations, too individualistic to develop effective technologies, too stubborn to accept the natural order of things. He paused. Yet here you are, spreading across the galaxy with unprecedented speed and efficiency. Marcus felt the charges he had set reaching final countdown. In 30 seconds, the laboratory and all its research would be destroyed. But first he needed answers. What makes us so special? He asked. You adapt, Lord Silastan said simply. Not just biologically, though that is remarkable enough. You adapt mentally, socially, technologically. When faced with impossible challenges, other species either overcome them through existing strengths or perish in the attempt. Humans create new strengths. And that scares you? Terrifies us, the alien lord admitted. Because adaptation at your rate suggests that humanity is not following normal evolutionary patterns. Something shaped your species for survival against extinction-level threats. Something prepared you for challenges that no natural world could provide. The charges detonated, destroying decades of Kithra research in a brilliant flash of light and heat. As the laboratory burned around them, Marcus felt the last of his enhancement fading away, leaving him merely human once again. But the memory of what he had experienced remained, the sense of unlimited potential, of barriers that existed only in the mind. Interesting, Lord Silastan observed as the flames died down. Even the destruction was perfectly calculated. You eliminated the research while leaving the infrastructure intact. Most efficient. We need to go. HFY called from above. The Kithra will be sending reinforcements. Indeed, the alien lord agreed. But first, human, you should know the truth about what you have begun. The blood you shared with Princess HFY has created something new. Something that has never existed in the galaxy's history. What? Marcus asked, though part of him already suspected the answer. Proof, Lord Silastan replied. Proof that humanity's evolutionary path is not natural. Proof that your species was deliberately shaped by an intelligence far beyond anything currently known in the galaxy. His ancient eyes fixed on Marcus with disturbing intensity. And proof that whoever created you intended for you to inherit the galaxy itself. As alarms began blaring throughout the station, and the sound of approaching footsteps echoed down the corridors, Marcus realized that saving one alien princess had indeed changed everything. The battle outside was no longer about territory or politics or even survival. It was about the future of galactic civilization itself. And somehow humanity had just been revealed as the wild card that could determine the outcome. The evacuation from a destroyed laboratory became a running battle through the station's corridors. Marcus found himself fighting alongside beings he had only heard about in xenobiology reports. Ethereal soldiers whose weapons fired concentrated beams of pure energy and whose movements seemed to bend space itself. But even their advanced abilities were being pushed to the limit by the Kithra response. The insectoid aliens had called in reinforcements from their fleet, and now the station crawled with heavily armed shock troops. Their new armor seemed to incorporate technology stolen from other species, and Marcus noticed with growing alarm that many of their weapons were specifically calibrated for human physiology. They have been preparing for war with your people, Princess HFY confirmed as they ducked behind a collapsed support beam. Her abilities had continued to evolve since the transfusion, and she could now sense the electromagnetic signatures of enemy equipment through solid walls. These weapons, this armor, everything is designed to counter human tactics and biology. Lord Silas Tan moved with fluid grace despite his apparent age, his robes somehow deflecting plasma bolts that should have incinerated him. "The Kithara fear what they do not understand," he said, his voice carrying easily over the sound of weapons fire. "And they understand humanity least of all." Marcus reloaded his rifle, noting that his ammunition was running low. The enhanced coordination from the princess's gift had faded, but the memory of that perfect clarity remained, allowing him to fight with efficiency that impressed even the ethereal soldiers. "Why didn't anyone tell us about this?" he asked, taking down a Kithara trooper with a precisely placed shot. "If they've been planning anti-human weapons." "Because most species assumed you would destroy yourselves before becoming a true threat," Lord Silas Tan replied with brutal honesty. "Young civilizations typically either achieve stability and stagnation or burn themselves out in nuclear fire within a few centuries of developing space travel. Humans have done neither." They reached an intersection where two corridors branched toward different sections of the station. Marcus could hear human voices down the left passage. Colonel Harrison's people were somewhere in that direction. But the right passage led toward the communication center where they might be able to contact the human fleet. "Split up," Lord Silas Tan decided before Marcus could voice the tactical dilemma. "Princess, you will escort the human to his people. I will attempt to reach the communication facility and inform both fleets of what we have learned." "That's suicide," Marcus protested. "There are dozens of Kithara troops between here and the comm center." The ancient alien smiled, and for a moment his features seemed almost human in their warmth. "Human, I have fought in galactic wars since before your species discovered fire. I believe I can manage a few overzealous arthropods." Before Marcus could argue further, Lord Silas Tan was gone, moving down the corridor with impossible speed. The air itself seemed to part before him, and the few Kithara soldiers who tried to intercept him simply stopped existing. "Your people really don't understand what they're dealing with, do they?" Marcus asked Zura THYSS as they headed toward the human positions. "Most species don't," she replied. "The ethereal dominion is older than recorded galactic history. We remember the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations. We have seen empires that spanned entire galactic arms reduced to legends, and species that seemed destined for greatness fade into extinction." She paused, navigating around a section of corridor that had been sealed by battle damage. "But we have never seen anything like humanity." They found Colonel Harrison's people in what had once been the station's main cargo bay. The humans had turned it into a fortress, using shipping containers and industrial equipment to create defensive positions that would have made a military engineer proud. But Marcus could see they were running low on ammunition and medical supplies. "Sergeant Chun," Colonel Harrison called out as they approached the perimeter. "Good to see you're still breathing. Who's your friend?" "Princess Zarathustra SS of the Ethereal Dominion," Marcus replied, noting how the other humans reacted to the introduction. Some reached for weapons. Others simply stared in fascination at the alien royal. "The same ethereal dominion whose ships are currently trying to board this station?" the colonel asked pointedly. "The same ethereal dominion whose technology is currently keeping you alive," Zarathustra SS replied with diplomatic precision. "The atmospheric processors in this section have been damaged by the battle. Without my people's intervention, you would have suffocated 20 minutes ago." Marcus looked around and realized she was right. The air had a strange, sweet quality that definitely wasn't standard station atmosphere. Somehow, the ethereal ships were maintaining life support in this section of Nexus Station remotely. "What do they want?" Colonel Harrison demanded. "To understand what happened when Sergeant Chun saved my life," the princess replied honestly, "and to prevent the Kithara from turning that understanding into a weapon against all organic life in the galaxy." "Explain." Marcus gave a quick briefing on what they had discovered in the laboratory, the months of human experimentation, the anti-human weapons, the research into hybridbiology. As he spoke, he could see the implications sinking in among the human soldiers and civilians. They'd been planning this for years, Sarah Martinez realized. She had been among the prisoners they had rescued, and her diplomatic training made her quick to understand the political ramifications. The attack on the station wasn't retaliation. It was the opening move in a larger campaign. Against humanity specifically, Colonel Harrison added grimly. Which means every human colony, every trade ship, every diplomatic mission is now a potential target. Not just humanity, HFY corrected. The research they were conducting suggests they plan to develop biological weapons capable of targeting any species they consider a threat. Humans are simply their current focus because you represent the most unpredictable variable in their strategic calculations. Through the makeshift windows of their defensive position, Marcus could see the battle in space continuing to rage. The human fleet was holding its own, but barely. Human ships were faster and more maneuverable than their alien counterparts, but the technology gap was still significant. "We need to get this information to Admiral Torres," Colonel Harrison said, referring to the human fleet commander. "If the Kithara are planning a full-scale biological warfare campaign." Already being handled, came a familiar voice. Lord Silas Tan materialized in the center of their defensive position, somehow having passed through their perimeter without triggering any sensors or alarms. "I have successfully contacted all 3 fleets. The information has been transmitted." "What was their response?" Marcus asked. "Varied," the alien lord replied diplomatically. "Your Admiral Torres has ordered the immediate evacuation of all human civilians from contested space. The Kithara fleet commander has demanded the surrender of all human personnel for biological containment. And my own people," he paused, his ancient features troubled. "My own people have voted to impose quarantine on this entire sector." "Quarantine?" HFY asked sharply. "The Council of Minds believes that the hybrid effects created by human ethereal blood mixing represent too great a risk to allow uncontrolled spread," Lord Silas Tan explained. "They have authorized the deployment of void barriers around any system where such contamination has occurred." Marcus didn't understand the technology involved, but the princess's reaction made it clear that this was serious. Her skin went completely pale, losing all its natural luminescence. "Void barriers isolate entire star systems from the rest of the galaxy," she explained in a horrified whisper. "Nothing can enter or leave. No ships, no communications, no energy signatures of any kind. It is a technology we use only for the most dangerous biological containments." "You're talking about cutting off entire worlds," Colonel Harrison said, his military mind quickly grasping the implications. "Permanently," Lord Silas Tan confirmed. "The barriers cannot be removed once deployed. Any system enclosed within them is effectively removed from galactic civilization forever." Marcus felt a cold dread settling in his stomach. How many systems are they planning to quarantine? "Any system with significant human populations that might have been exposed to the hybrid effects," the alien lord replied. "Based on current projections, that would include approximately 40% of human-controlled space." The magnitude of what was being proposed hit the humans like a physical blow. Hundreds of colonies, billions of people, entire sectors of human civilization, all cut off forever because one soldier had given blood to save an alien princess. "We can't let that happen," Marcus said flatly. "You may have no choice," Lord Silas Tan replied. "The ethereal dominion's fear of uncontrolled biological evolution runs deep. We have seen species accidentally create extinction-level pathogens through careless genetic manipulation. The hybrid effects you and the princess have demonstrated represent unprecedented biological changes that could potentially spread to other species." "But they haven't spread," Marcus protested. "The transfusion affected only the princess, not anyone else." Yet, HFY said quietly, "But, Marcus, what we experienced together, the enhancement, the shared abilities, the biological compatibility between incompatible species, these things should not be possible according to any known science. If they can happen once, they might happen again. And if they spread," she didn't need to finish the sentence. The implications were clear. If human blood could somehow enhance alien biology in unpredictable ways, and if those enhancements could be transmitted to other beings, then humanity represented a potential vector for galactic-scale biological contamination. "There has to be another way," Sarah Martinez said, her diplomatic training asserting itself. "Some kind of controlled study, or limited testing, or—" "The Kithara will not allow controlled study," Lord Silas Tan interrupted. "They view humanity as a plague to be eliminated before it spreads further. And My people will not risk galactic biological stability for the sake of one young species, no matter how remarkable. So what are our options? Colonel Harrison asked. Surrender to Kithera biological research facilities and hope they discover a way to prevent the hybrid effects, the alien lord replied. Submit to ethereal quarantine and accept permanent isolation from galactic civilization. Or, he paused, studying the humans with those ancient eyes. Or what? Marcus prompted. Prove that humanity deserves to be an exception to the normal rules of galactic biological safety, Lord Silas Tan said. Demonstrate that your species can be trusted with unprecedented evolutionary potential. How do we do that? By solving a problem that no other species has been able to resolve, the princess said, sudden understanding dawning in her features. The Devourers. Lord Silas Tan nodded approvingly. The princess understands. Yes, the Devourer crisis could indeed provide such a demonstration. Marcus had heard of the Devourers in intelligence briefings, but only as background information on galactic politics. There was some kind of ancient threat that occasionally emerged from deep space to attack inhabited systems. The major galactic powers have been dealing with periodic Devourer incursions for thousands of years, but had never been able to completely eliminate the threat. Explain, Colonel Harrison ordered. The Devourers are artificial constructs, Lord Silas Tan said, created by a long-extinct civilization as self-replicating weapons. They consume organic matter to fuel their reproduction, and they adapt to overcome any defense deployed against them. Every few centuries, they emerge from the galactic void to attack populated systems, and no one has been able to stop them permanently. Marcus asked. Every species tries, HFY replied. The pattern is always the same. Initial contact results in massive losses. Military forces adapt their tactics and achieve temporary victories. The Devourers adapt in response and resume their advance. Eventually, they consume enough resources to begin reproducing faster than they can be destroyed, and entire sectors must be evacuated. How does this help us? Because there is a Devourer incursion beginning now, Lord Silas Tan revealed. Long-range sensors detected the first scout units entering this galactic arm 3 days ago. Within weeks, they will reach inhabited systems. Within months, they will threaten core worlds of multiple civilizations. Marcus began to see where this was leading. And if humans could somehow succeed where other species have failed, then the galaxy would have to reconsider its position on human biological potential, the princess finished. The Council of Minds would view your species as an asset rather than a threat. The Kithera would be forced to acknowledge human military value, and the quarantine protocols would be suspended. It's been tried before, Lord Silas Tan warned. 3 different species have attempted to prove their worth by defeating the Devourers. The hegemony lost their entire battle fleet and 2 core worlds before requesting emergency evacuation assistance. The war clans fought them to a standstill for 6 months before their resistance collapsed. Even the Kithera Empire's most advanced weapons proved insufficient. What makes you think humans would do any better? Colonel Harrison asked. The ancient alien, and the princess exchanged a look that Marcus couldn't quite interpret. Because, Lord Silas Tan said finally, humans are the only species to have ever created something that the Devourers cannot adapt to overcome. What do you mean? The hybrid effects created by your blood sharing with Princess ZaraThYSS, he explained. The biological enhancements, the shared abilities, the unprecedented compatibility between incompatible genetic structures. These represent evolutionary changes that occur too rapidly for the Devourers' adaptation protocols to counter. Marcus felt pieces of a larger puzzle beginning to fall into place. You're saying that whatever makes human biology different, it could be the key to defeating the Devourers. I am saying that the combination of human adaptability and ethereal enhancement capabilities creates possibilities that have never existed before, Lord Silas Tan replied. Possibilities that might finally tip the balance in an ancient war. But it would mean deliberately spreading the hybrid effects to other humans, ZaraThYSS pointed out, creating an entire force of enhanced human ethereal soldiers. And if it goes wrong? Sarah Martinez asked. If the enhancement process fails or creates uncontrollable side effects, then Humanity faces extinction anyway, the alien lord said bluntly. Either through Kithara biological warfare, ethereal quarantine, or devourer consumption when they inevitably reach human space. Marcus looked around at the faces of his fellow humans, soldiers, diplomats, civilians who had come to this station seeking nothing more than honest trade and peaceful cooperation. Now, they were being asked to gamble the future of their entire species on an untested biological enhancement process that might save the galaxy or doom it to unprecedented contamination. There's something you're not telling us, he realized, studying the two aliens. Something about why this is really necessary. Lord Silas Tan was quiet for a long moment, then seemed to make a decision. The Devourer incursion beginning now is different from previous encounters, he admitted. Our long-range surveillance has detected construct types that have never been seen before. They appear to have evolved new capabilities during their dormancy period. Standard defensive protocols may prove completely ineffective. How different? Colonel Harrison pressed. They appear to have developed the ability to consume not just organic matter, but the quantum foundations of space-time itself, HFY said quietly. If they reach inhabited systems with this capability, they will not simply destroy planets. They will erase them from existence entirely, along with everything in the surrounding space. The full scope of what they were facing finally became clear. This wasn't just about humanity's place in the galaxy, or even about the survival of human civilization. This was about the potential extinction of organic life throughout the entire galactic arm. So we really don't have a choice, Marcus said. No, Lord Silas Tan agreed. None of us do. As if summoned by their conversation, the station's communications system crackled to life. Admiral Torres's voice filled the cargo bay, carrying news that would change everything. All human personnel, this is Admiral Torres. Long-range sensors have detected massive gravitational anomalies approaching from deep space. Unknown contacts estimated to reach the outer colonies within 72 hours. All civilian evacuation protocols are now in effect. Military personnel will receive new orders within the hour. The Devourers had arrived ahead of schedule. And, ready or not, humanity was about to face its greatest test. The transformation began in the depths of space, aboard the ethereal vessel Harmony of Stars. Marcus had volunteered to be the first test subject for the Enhanced Human Program, though volunteered might have been too strong a word. When the survival of your species depends on an untested biological enhancement process, choice becomes somewhat academic. The medical bay of the ethereal ship was unlike anything in human experience. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with soft, rhythmic light. The air itself felt alive, charged with energies that made Marcus's skin tingle. Princess Zara THYSS had explained that ethereal medical technology worked by harmonizing with the patient's natural life force, rather than imposing external treatments. Are you certain about this? She asked for the third time, as the enhancement apparatus was prepared around him. She had been asking the same question for hours, and Marcus could hear the genuine concern in her voice. No, he replied honestly, but I'm certain about what happens if we don't try. Through the transparent walls of the medical bay, Marcus could see the human fleet maintaining formation with the ethereal vessels. It was an unprecedented sight. Ships that had been shooting at each other just days earlier now working together against a common threat. Admiral Torres had agreed to the enhancement program only after long-range sensors confirmed that the Devourer Advanced Scouts were indeed unlike anything previously encountered. Lord Silas Tan entered the medical bay accompanied by several other ethereal scientists. Their ancient faces carried expressions of deep concern mixed with scientific curiosity. Marcus recognized the look. It was the same expression human researchers wore when they were about to attempt something that might revolutionize knowledge or destroy everything they were trying to protect. The process will be more extensive than the emergency transfusion, Lord Silas Tan explained as the medical apparatus activated around Marcus. We will be permanently integrating ethereal enhancement matrices with your human biology. The changes will affect not just your physical capabilities, but your neural pathways, your sensory apparatus, and your fundamental cellular structure. Will I still be human? Marcus asked. You will be something new, the alien lord replied with characteristic bluntness. Neither fully human nor ethereal, but possessing capabilities of both. If the process succeeds, you will represent a new form of life that has never existed in the galaxy. And if it fails, then you will die, possibly in a manner that could contaminate this entire vessel with unstable biological energy, came the cheerful response. Marcus felt the apparatus beginning to interface with his nervous system. It wasn't painful exactly, but it was profoundly alien. Tendrils of crystalline material extended from the walls to make contact with his skin, and he could feel them establishing connections with his circulatory and nervous systems. Remarkable, one of the ethereal scientists commented, studying readouts that meant nothing to Marcus. His cellular structure is adapting to the interface faster than our most optimistic projections suggested. Human biology is more flexible than most species, HFY noted. They evolved on a world that required constant adaptation for survival. As the process continued, Marcus felt his awareness expanding. At first, it was subtle, a sharpening of his senses, an increase in mental clarity. But gradually, more profound changes began to manifest. He could sense the electromagnetic patterns of the equipment around him, could feel the life force signatures of the ethereals in the room, could even detect the massive energy flows powering the ship itself. Extraordinary, Lord Silastan murmured. He's not just accepting the enhancement, he is optimizing it. His neural pathways are reorganizing themselves to take maximum advantage of the new capabilities. But the most startling change was in his perception of space itself. Marcus began to sense dimensions of reality that human senses couldn't normally detect. The walls of the medical bay became transparent to his enhanced vision, allowing him to see through them to the corridors beyond. The ship itself became a three-dimensional map in his mind, every system and conduit visible and comprehensible. Something's wrong, he said suddenly, his enhanced senses detecting an anomaly in the ship's power distribution. What do you mean? HFY asked, checking the medical readouts. The gravitational field generators, Marcus said, though he wasn't sure how he knew. There's an instability in the quantum matrix. Section 7, Deck 12. The ethereal scientists exchanged shocked glances. Lord Silastan activated a communication device and spoke rapidly in his own language. A few moments later, he received a response that made his ancient features go pale. How did you detect that? He asked Marcus. The instability is real, but our own sensors failed to identify it. It would have resulted in a cascade failure within hours. I don't know, Marcus admitted. I could just see it somehow, like seeing a crack in a wall that's about to collapse. As the enhancement process continued, more changes manifested. Marcus found he could sense the quantum fluctuations that preceded hyperspace jumps, could detect the gravitational signatures of ships at impossible distances, could even perceive the strange distortions that marked the approach of the Devourers. This is beyond anything we anticipated, one of the scientists reported. His enhancement levels are exceeding theoretical maximums. You should not be able to process this much integrated capability without neurological breakdown. Yet he appears stable, Lord Silastan observed, studying Marcus with fascination. More than stable, he appears to be thriving. Human adaptability continues to exceed all projections. Hours passed as the enhancement reached completion. When the apparatus finally disengaged, Marcus felt like he had been reborn into a larger universe. Every sense was magnified, every mental process accelerated, every physical capability enhanced beyond normal human limits. But the most profound change was in his understanding of life itself. He could sense the biological patterns that connected all living things, could feel the flow of energy that sustained consciousness across species barriers. It was as if he had been given access to the fundamental code that governed organic existence. How do you feel? HFY asked as he sat up on the medical table. Like I can see the universe as it really is, Marcus replied. And it was true. The enhanced senses showed him layers of reality that normal perception couldn't detect. Energy patterns flowed through space like rivers of light. Gravitational fields created geometric structures of incredible complexity. Life force signatures blazed like stars against the dark background of space. Excellent, Lord Silastan said. Now we must see if the enhancement can be replicated in other humans. The Devourers will reach the first inhabited systems within 36 hours. The next phase of the experiment took place aboard Admiral Torres's flagship, the carrier Indomitable. Colonel Harrison had volunteered 50 of his most experienced soldiers for the enhancement program, despite the risks involved. The human fleet had been reinforced by ships from across human space, but everyone understood that conventional weapons would be inadequate against the new Devourer variants. Marcus found himself in the unfamiliar role of instructor, teaching human soldiers how to interface with ethereal enhancement technology. The process was easier than expected. Human biology seemed almost designed to accept the alien augmentations. Within hours, they had successfully enhanced 20 volunteers. But the real test came when long-range sensors detected the first Devourer scout units entering the system. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, reported the sensor operator. Multiple large contacts, configuration unknown. Marcus extended his enhanced senses toward the detected signatures and felt his blood run cold. The Devourers were unlike anything he had expected. Where normal ships showed the clean electromagnetic patterns of artificial technology, these constructs radiated chaotic energy signatures that hurt to perceive directly. They're not just consuming matter, he reported to Admiral Torres. They're consuming space itself. Every jump they make leaves dead zones where normal physics doesn't apply. How do we fight something like that? The Admiral asked. By being something they can adapt to, Marcus replied. Their programming is designed to analyze and counter known forms of life and technology. But enhanced humans represent something that has never existed before. The battle began 3 hours later when the Devourer scouts reached the outer system. The alien constructs were massive, each one larger than a human battleship, with geometries that seemed to fold in on themselves in impossible ways. They moved through space like living things, flowing rather than flying toward the waiting fleet. Marcus led the first squadron of enhanced humans into combat, piloting fighters that had been modified with ethereal technology. The moment they engaged the enemy, he understood why previous species had failed against the Devourers. The constructs adapted in real time. When human missiles struck their hulls, the Devourers instantly developed countermeasures that neutralized identical weapons. When energy beams cut through their armor, they evolved new materials that absorbed the same frequencies. It was like fighting an enemy that learned from every attack and became immune to it. But the enhanced humans proved to be different. Marcus found that his hybrid abilities allowed him to perceive the Devourers' adaptation patterns before they fully manifested. He could sense the quantum fluctuations that preceded their evolutionary responses and adjust his tactics accordingly. Alpha Squadron switched to randomized frequency pulses, he ordered, watching as the Devourers struggled to adapt to weapons that changed their characteristics faster than their programming could analyze. Beta Squadron, focus fire on the quantum weak points I'm marking. They can't armor those without compromising their dimensional stability. The enhanced pilots responded with precision that amazed even themselves. Their hybrid abilities allowed them to coordinate attacks at levels that normal human reflexes couldn't achieve. They fought as a unified organism, each pilot's actions perfectly complementing the others. But even with their advantages, the battle was brutal. The Devourers might not be able to adapt to the enhanced humans immediately, but they were still incredibly powerful. Several fighters were destroyed when constructs managed to engulf them in fields of twisted space-time that crushed matter down to the quantum level. We're losing too many people, Admiral Torres reported over the tactical network. Even with the enhancements, we can't sustain this level of casualties. Marcus studied the battle pattern through his enhanced perception and realized the problem. They were fighting the Devourers as if they were normal enemies, trying to destroy them through superior firepower and tactics. But these constructs weren't meant to be defeated by conventional warfare. Admiral, I need you to pull all conventional forces back to minimum engagement range, Marcus ordered. Enhanced units only from this point forward. Sergeant, you don't have the authority to... Sir, with respect, the enhanced units aren't just augmented humans, Marcus interrupted. We're something the Devourers have never encountered before. But we need to stop thinking like humans and start thinking like what we've become. As the conventional forces withdrew, Marcus led the enhanced squadrons in a new type of attack. Instead of trying to destroy the devourer constructs, they began to interact with them on a quantum level. The hybrid biology that combined human adaptability with ethereal energy manipulation allowed them to interface directly with the construct's programming. "What are you doing?" Zara Teach-Wes asked from the bridge of the Harmony of Stars, where she was monitoring the battle through her own enhanced senses. Talking to them, Marcus replied, his consciousness extending beyond his physical body to touch the artificial minds of the devourers. "These things are programmed to consume and adapt, but they're still machines. They follow rules." The contact was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. The devourer minds were vast and alien, but they operated according to logical patterns that his enhanced understanding could interpret. They had been created by a long-dead civilization to consume everything in their path, but their programming contained limitations that their creators had built in to prevent them from becoming an uncontrollable plague. "I can see their base code," Marcus reported, his voice strangely distant as his consciousness interfaced with the construct network. "They're programmed to stop consuming once they encounter a species that demonstrates specific evolutionary characteristics." "What characteristics?" Lord Silastan demanded. "The ability to transcend biological limitations through symbiotic enhancement," Marcus replied. "They're meant to test whether younger species can evolve beyond their original forms." The revelation changed everything. The devourers weren't just mindless weapons. They were a test left behind by an ancient civilization. A test designed to identify species capable of the kind of hybrid evolution that Marcus and the other enhanced humans represented. "So if we can prove that humanity has achieved transcendent evolution," Admiral Torres,